What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful day today, Monday. Beautiful Monday. So I'm having some tea. It's loose leaf. It's not Lipton. It's Tetley. It's a pretty good tea. This is loose leaf. So it's, you gotta have one of these. And 31 ounces, almost 32 ounces in here. Smells delicious. It's a lot of tea. But I drink tea every day. Every day. You ask my mother if she wants a cup of tea. My mother's response is, I'm not sick. And I grew up when I was, a kid, that the only time I had tea, other times, but the only time that we usually had tea is when we had a cold. My mother would pull down the tea bags and stop making the tea. But I drink tea every day. I don't know, some people think that it's medicine or something, that you only take it when you have a cold or if you're sick, like the flu. I've never noticed any big difference. Like if I drink tea, I may feel a bit of comfort from the heat, but once 5 minutes are gone, the cold feels just as intense as it did prior to drinking the tea. Delicious, but I will say, very slight margin, I prefer Lipton. Very slight. There's something about Lipton that has a little bit of a better, I don't know what it is, something. But Tetley is very fine. Delicious tea. So, right here I have a game that when I was a kid was a favorite of ours. You'd go to somebody's house, like a relative, and they'd say, hey, who wants to play? And, back then it was board games. We did not have an iPhone or video games. Sometimes I feel like I was born in the Great Depression. We didn't have anything back then. We had mechanical things, But, a lot of cousins you would go and visit, they had these games, and we had this game at home. Trouble. You can see the classic picture in the back. And I guess this is the updated version, like the better looking. I haven't opened it yet, so I don't know what's in here. Looks like a book. Trouble. Oh yeah. It's got the little pegs. It's got this little with the die in it. And that would basically tell you how many steps to move. Ages 5 and up, 2 to 4 players. And then you have, wow, really nice. And you have this. Get that. Put that flat on the table. And then you put this in the center. And then you play. And so you have your setup here, your certain color. You could be green, red, yellow, blue. And you, whatever that says, you move your pegs. And whoever makes them all the way around and lines them up back here wins. Hey, we had fun with basic things in those days. Now kids do not get entertained easily because their brains want more. We would get entertained playing with worms in the backyard. I remember I would visit a friend of mine up the street, and if it goes this way, yes. And there was a garage in his backyard. We didn't have a garage. My father took it down. So we'd go back there, and there was, a portion of our time playing would be spent in the back of this garage, and on the side were these big rocks, about that size, pretty heavy. We'd pick them up, and underneath were worms. And after a while, we became familiar with these worms because they're always the same ones for a certain amount of time. And we would just watch them, and that was entertaining for us. Or we'd dig holes in the ground. Hide and go seek was big in those days. Relievio was another thing that I played a lot of. Now, they get on this all day. All day. I don't know, our mind back then was easily entertained. You could play tic-tac-toe. I remember, what's going on here? I remember, I'd get a friend of yours, probably, you want to play tic-tac-toe? And you'd say, yeah, let's play tic-tac-toe. And we'd do it, and everybody wanted to be X's. I don't know, it's very easy to do an X. Zeros are hard, O's are hard. And so we'd play that. You'd see like a bunch of sheets covered with tic-tac-toes. And we had fun doing that. We thought we were clever. Oh, wow, I got you here. Oh, I got you both ways. You can't win now. You can't stop me. And then there was another game, SOS. And that was basically a grid, right? And you would start off S, and then O, and then eventually whoever could make an SOS, a complete SOS, would get a point. By the time you filled it up, you would count how many you had in different color, and then how many they had, and you'd say, I won. And that was exciting. Now, you tell somebody to play tic-tac-toe, you're lucky to get one game out of them, and then they're bored. Different world. This has created attention deficit disorder in children because everything has to be instant gratification. There's no build-up. Short videos now, they've even shortened videos. I guess people are too bored to watch long videos on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. So now they have the short versions, where you do something and within 30 seconds you have a conclusion. And those are very popular. As a matter of fact, YouTube prefers those, from what I hear. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, when I was a kid, we did a lot of physical stuff, a lot of running, a lot of game playing, sports, things like that. Kickball was big. Yeah, I was, the king of kickball in my neighborhood. You should have went to every neighborhood and got the king from each neighborhood to play each other, or make a team, 2 teams, and compete. But I was really good at kickball. I could kick that ball really far. I had the right angle, I had the right shoe. And we had a gym teacher in those days who had a little bit of a show off. He always wanted to show how far he could kick the ball, to show us, look at this man, how far he can do it. So at the end, the very last kick would be his. And I remember one time he kicked it and it went up and up and up, it shrank. And then I caught it. So, but yeah, he always had to show you the very last thing, what his strong legs could do. Meantime, he was a gym teacher who smoked. So, and then I remember he gave us a lecture on smoking. This was in the 5th grade, last gym class of the year. And it was indoors, and he gave us a little lecture about how him and his wife smoke, and how they're going to give it up, and how so, it's a mama's boy going home. So anyway, said that, this is how much I spend per year, my wife and I, this is some huge amount. And he did quit his wife. He divorced her, after a while. I heard that they went their separate ways. But the cigarettes he did not quit. I saw him, he died a few years back, but I saw him before he died, a picture of him on the internet, one of the sites. And old guy, when I knew him, nice and young, in his 30s. Now it was an old guy, looked old. And then you look on the bed and there's a pack of Marlboros next to him. So couldn't kick the habit. But anyway, I was a big fan of all that. I was pretty good at you know, baseball, things like that. But kickball was my thing, and relevio. And also, I was a good pitcher. I was like really good at pitching. I could throw a ball hard and far. So I could throw many things. I could throw sticks far too. I remember, I've said this before, but you know, I don't know. Now I'm older and I think about it, and I don't even know how it happened. But I would throw a stick from my friend's house, and then we had another house in between, and then we had my house, and then we had another house after that, and I could hit the house after that, you know, like the one next to my house. And when you see it now as an adult, you're like, how does a little kid, you know, second, third grader, how's he able to throw something that far? One time I threw a rock. It was the end of the day. I remember it was like Friday, or it was Saturday actually. And I had a rock in my hand, and I'm just going to throw it from my friend's house. It's going to cross the next house. It's going to cross my yard and probably land in my yard somewhere. So I threw it, and the rock kept going. And it kept going and going, and I'm looking, I go, that's going to hit a window. And it hit my neighbor's window and shattered it. And I heard, Vic! So he knew it was me before I knew it was me. Oh, there's LAPD. LAPD. So, yeah, he yelled out my name, and I was like, oh no, now we'll be in trouble. And I'll tell you this right now, from my point of view now, as an adult, that's what I am right now, right? Physically. But anyway, if my kid did that, I would not get mad. I would say, all right, let's, you know, go tell the guy we'll fix it. We'll pay for it. I don't know if we're going to fix it. It's not like I'm a window guy. But I would take it somewhere. I'd fix it. I would not get mad at my kid. But I remember thinking in my head, my father's going to flip out. He's going to flip out. Just to, you know, get to the chase on this one, he did not flip out. I just, in my head, thought he would. So anyway, the next day was Sunday. My mother had gone somewhere, so it was me and my father at home alone. He took my sister with somewhere, and I was thinking, oh man, because we were right next to the neighbor I broke the window of. And my father likes to spend a lot of time in the yard, likes to, you know, mess around with the engines back in those days. He liked to do all that stuff. So I was picturing my father downstairs with a screwdriver, tightening up the carburetor or something, and then my neighbor coming out and calling him over and saying, yeah, you know, your son broke the window. Even though he didn't see me do it, but that's all was in my neighborhood. If something happened in my neighborhood, they always found me and asked me, did you have something to do with that? And I'm like, why are you asking me? I had something to do with that? And in reality, a lot of times I did. But I just didn't, it kind of annoyed me that they would come to me first. You know, just assuming. Because, you know, when you assume, you know what happens, right? Anyway, so that day I was trying to get my father distracted, like, you know, let's get in the car, go somewhere, return late at night. And he wasn't feeling it. He wasn't, you know, he didn't want to go anywhere. And then I say, hey, you want to take a walk around the neighborhood? And he goes, yeah, we'll do that. Which was extremely rare. I think I only did that one time with my father, walking around the neighborhood. So I remember getting out of the driveway and going down as fast as we could. This is on foot, and looking around. My neighbor was not around. I said, perfect. So we take the right, and I bring him up to the water tower, which was my favorite hangout as a kid. I would take my friends up there and kill time, and, you know, we'd roam around. Back then you could do that at a young age. So anyway, I take him up there, and I'm all happy when we took the right, because now you can't see us, and now, you know, we escape. And we go up there all the way to the water tower, and we're kind of talking and hanging out. And I'm thinking, is this the calm before the storm? Because when we get back, I have a feeling my neighbor's going to find us. So anyway, we spent a couple hours doing this. We get back. It's still kind of early, you know, it's daylight, you know. My neighbor could see fine, you know, it's not dark enough, and it's not inconvenient for him to come out. I mean, if it was like 11, I don't think he would come out. So we get back, I go upstairs, but my father decides he's going to hang around with the hose outside and start rinsing the cars, and I'm like, oh man. So next thing I see, my neighbor comes down the stairs, waves at my father, tells him to come over, and then he starts pointing at the window, and my father's looking at it, he's nodding. So I go, now I'm in trouble. Now I was expecting the storm to hit. So my father comes up, he goes, he broke John's window. I go, yeah, I broke the window. He goes, don't worry. He goes, we'll fix it. And that was it, which very surprising because my father had a temper. And the time that you thought he was going to lose that temper, he wouldn't. And that was the time I thought he was going to flip out, and he didn't. He probably figured, you know what, I was a kid once, twice. I broke a few windows in my time by accident, maybe on purpose. So I understand. And because he understood, I didn't get in trouble. We fixed it. I remember we went up to the hardware store. In those days, there was a lot of mama and papa hardware stores in the area. And my father had, you know, good relations with a few of these places. So he went up and he bought a pane of glass. That's what they call it, right? A sheet of glass. And I remember we went in the basement, and he had one of those old-fashioned cutters, and he cut it and he fixed it because he knew how to do that kind of stuff. And then he went and he put it back. He fixed the, you know, the wood and everything, and that was the end of that. I never heard about it again. But, you know, accident. It was an accident. I didn't do it on purpose. But that's just the story. I was able to throw far. I don't know how, you know. I have people, they say, I got a good arm. They would say, you know, I could throw far. And I'd see them throw, and it would go from here maybe 20 feet away. I'm like, that's not that impressive. I would throw it, it would travel. But that's what we did. In those days, we threw things all the time. Just constantly throwing things, throwing rocks, sticks, cans, you name it. We were always throwing something. And the accuracy was not that bad. I had a friend of mine on the back side of where I lived, on the other side of my block, and they used to play baseball on the street. That was a popular thing. You know, you'd play either touch football, baseball, hockey on the street. And one day they were playing baseball, and they picked me, and I said, all right, I'll play a little bit. And I ended up pitching. And after that, he came up to me. He goes, you pitch very well. You should try out for, you know, whatever the local league is. And I said, I'm not interested. You got to dedicate time to that, and I didn't feel like doing that, so never happened. Anyway, now I'm going to talk a little bit about music. I have some material here in this bag. Right. It's a bunch of cats. Put it here. And we're going to take out some material. First, we got somebody I spoke about the other day, which I'm a fan of. Been a fan of his for years. And right here, it looks like he was trying out for a vampire role in some movie. Look at this. That's Johnny Cougar. Then it became John Cougar. Then it became John Cougar Mellencamp, and then it became John Mellencamp, and that was it. Now he's just John Mellencamp. But yeah, I like this guy. He's you know, good music, good rock songs, solid guitar. The other day I was talking about the albums, and my favorite album is the one I mentioned there, the Love, Death. You know, it's like it's got four. It's not memorable, the title, but it has a song on there, the Cocker song, and I love that tune. I love that album though. It's like my favorite John Mellencamp album. But I do love Scarecrow. I mean, all of them. I'm one of those that when I read on the internet that he's releasing something new, I'm there. I'm buying it. But this is an oldie. What year is this? 78. A lot of these songs are covers. American Dream is written by him, Oh Pretty Woman, Roy Orbison and Bill Bees, but he covers it on this. Never heard that version by John Mellencamp. I've heard the Van Halen version. Jailhouse Rock is on here. Some of these he wrote. Sad Lady he wrote with a guy that I guess he wrote for a lot of years after, George Green. Tell you, you know, I love that song, Human Wheels. What a cool tune that is. But like I said, he's a solid rocker. And yeah, John Mellencamp, John Cougar right here. I would have been like, if I went, like say I wanted to do a record deal with somebody and they said you gotta change your name, you know, to some ridiculous, you know, Nick Mongoose, I would say no, I'm not gonna do that. Just don't like that sound. But we got something else here. Yeah, that. He's still John Cougar. It says Mellencamp here, but in the back it says John Cougar. So I think this was his transitional phase. John Cougar Mellencamp. He was still using the Cougar. But this is a great album. Paper and Fire. Check it out. Cherry Bomb. Love that tune. I can't remember Hot Dogs and Hamburgers, but it's on here. Get the jukebox in the back. But yeah, like I said, he's underrated. I mean, everybody knows who he is. Everybody likes his tunes, but he's underrated. What else we have here? Oh man. So everybody who knows me, they know I'm a huge fan of the original Hawaii Five-0. I'm also a fan of the new Hawaii Five-0. I found that they did a great job on that, especially on the theme song. They really beefed it up. Drums were nice, kicking. But the original for me, especially from 68 to 74. So I got the soundtrack there. Side 1, Hawaii Five-0, that's the theme. Then you got Call to Danger, McGarrett's theme, Front Street, The Long Wait, Blues Trip. Then side 2, The Floater, Interlude, Operation Smash, Beach Trip, Uptight, The Chase, Hawaii Five-0. So, Leonard Freeman, executive producer of Hawaii Five-0. So this show, I can't tell you how big of a fan. I can't even describe it in words. This show, The $6 Million Man, is another one. Kung Fu with David Carradine, another one. Those 3 shows, and there was others, but now I'm speaking of those. They had a huge impact on me. And me, understand that I was running in slow motion for years because of The $6 Million Man, and I thought everybody looking at me would say, "Let him go. Guy's running quick," but I was in slow motion. Now, I knew enough not to run in slow motion when I played Relivio. I knew enough that I didn't run in slow motion. They'd catch me. Or catch me, right? So I ran, but I was the fastest kid, you know, in those days. Nobody could get me. I was always the first one picked for Relivio. Anytime they mention, let's play Relivio, they always say, pick me first. A lot of times I was the captain, but if I was not the captain, they picked me first because I was very difficult to catch, and I was very good at running through the jail and yelling Relivio and freeing everybody. I remember one time a 4th grader was trying to get me, and he was considered to be the fast kid in his class, and he couldn't get me, and he was swearing. You know, he was trying to get me, he was swearing, and I was laughing because I was frustrating him, and I thought it was funny. So, but Steve McGarrett, Jack Lord. Like I said, from 68 to 74. After that, it started losing a little bit, you know, and then when they got to the late 70s and 1980, it was, I don't even want to watch those, but early on, it was fabulous. It was an exceptional show. It lasted for 12 seasons, and Jack Lord was there till the end. Cam Fong, Chin O'Kelly, his character was killed off in 1977. I guess the contract, there was a dispute, something happened, and they killed him off. Maybe he wanted to get killed off. And then when they reprised, you know, they brought it back, they wanted to do like Jack Lord was the governor or something. They shot a pilot for that, and they included Chin Ho Kelly's character. The writers had forgotten that Chin Ho had died in '77, and they just didn't say anything to them. They shot it, he got paid and everything, and then they realized Chin Ho Kelly, you know, had died. You're not going to pass up a paycheck, right? And then this was another show, very popular. I'll tell you, you know, it was on Tuesday nights, 8 to 8:30, and I think it was on ABC, right? And I remember as a kid, anywhere you were, you had to get home to watch Happy Days. So, think of that. The Fonz. Sit on it. Now, I've met Henry Winkler. I've seen him, you know, 3 times, but I've spoken to him a couple of times. And first time, it's funny, in real life, you look at him and kind of wimpy, you know. You don't realize that he played the Fonz, the tough guy. In real life, a little bit wimpy, kind of, you know, I don't know, wimpy. Not an insult, just he was, you know, he's a little wimpy, a little bit. Anyway, so first time I met him was at a muscle car show. Me and my wife went. This is before we had kids. And we were there, you know, because I'm a big fan of the old muscle cars, you know, the 70s, 60s. Had like, you know, 7.0 liter engines in them and 5 miles a gallon. Big fat wide mag tires in the back. Love those cars. The 442 Oldsmobile, the GTO 67 through 70. You know, the Camaros, of course the Corvettes, Dodge Chargers, Challengers. What else did we have back then? Roadrunner. Loved all those cars. So we went. They had all these cars there and more. They were all done up, fresh paint, no rust, and checking them out. And then all of a sudden, my eye caught Henry Winkler. He was there with Joni from Happy Days, and she was having a hard time in those days, so he was there. And they were allowing the public to take pictures with them, and they were charging $10, which extremely reasonable. And so we went over there, and by the time we got there, she was leaving, so he said bye to her, but he was still there, and we took a picture with him. And we talked to him for about, you know, 5 minutes or so. Gave my wife a little rub on the neck while I'm next to him. And then we paid the $10, and, you know, we went on. And then I said to myself, you know what, I forgot to ask him something. I had a friend, you know, it's like a family friend, a lot older than me. He was born in the 30s. And he would always tell me the stories about Henry Winkler. They went to Emerson together, and he knew Henry, and they hung around together, and they were on the fencing team together. And so he would always mention that. And I said, you know what, I told my bride, I said, you know, I forgot to say that to him. Maybe he would remember. And I said, well, next time I see him, I'll mention that. So now, fast forward, I don't know, like 15 years later, and I'm at a restaurant, meeting, it's breakfast time, meeting, you know, with my wife, and I see Henry Winkler in the restaurant go outside. He was wearing a beige suit, and he's on his cell phone talking, and I said to my bride, I said, you know what, I'm going to go out and talk to him. I'm going to ask him that question, but I want to let him get off the phone first. I don't want to break up his call. So anyway, I see he finally hangs up, puts it in his pocket. He starts walking to come in, and I rush out, and I guess I rushed a little too quickly, and he sees me. He starts backing up, you know, and he had a worried look, like, who's this crazy guy? And I said, I want to tell him I come in peace, but I said, yeah, I just want to ask you a question. I said hi first, and I said, I want to ask you a question. And he looked all like, you know. So I said to him, I have a friend who used to talk about you, that you guys went to Emerson together and hung around and on and on, and I said, you know, just wondering if you remember him. And he goes, oh, what's his name? So I told him the name, and he asked me a second time. He goes, say that again. And I said it a second time, and then he goes, I don't remember. I'm sure it's true. He goes, I just don't remember. I'm sorry. And I said, it's okay, don't worry. And then he went on his way inside, and I went back to my bride. I sat down and I go, he didn't remember. And then I thought about it. I said, you know what? Maybe if I had said to him, you guys did fencing together, not putting up fences, but fencing with the whatever that is, fake sword. Maybe you would have remembered him, because the person I'm talking about was rather tall. He was like 6'5", and I'm sure, you know, you remember things like that. You said, remember that tall guy? You go, yeah, I remember that tall guy. But if I said that, then he might have remembered. So anyway, I ended up seeing him again after that, but not to talk to. So I was at a restaurant, kind of like a fancy place. Sophia Loren was there. So we're sitting at the table. I look over, and she's there. I guess she was with her son, and she was looking towards us. Her son was looking towards the wall, so he couldn't see us. And every so often I'd look over, and she would be looking towards our way, kind of like she was thinking, hey, did I do a movie with him? And she didn't. But anyway, and I go, wow, Sophia Loren, that's pretty cool. So anyway, they have fish there that are on the ice. So I said to my daughter, let's go check out the fish. So we walked around, and we went where the fish were, and on the way over, Henry Winkler was sitting at one of the tables, and he was laughing his ass off. He was laughing so hard that he had his hands like on his chest, and he was leaning back, and he had that very rare laugh that, you know, even on happy days when he would do that, he would catch himself as the Fonz and stop it. So he, you know, and I couldn't go over there and say, hey, I got a question for you, because he's with company. Maybe if I found him with the fish, like if he was up there examining the fish, I could have said, hey, you remember me? I don't think you have to do something dramatic for them to remember you. Like maybe if I saw him one time and I had invisible ink and I sprayed him with it and he got it all over his suit and then it disappeared, or disappearing ink is what they call it, then things like that they'd remember. You know, he would say, yeah, one time this guy did some disappearing ink on me, and then if I ran into him again, I'd say, I'm that guy. He would say, oh, I remember you. But I didn't do anything dramatic. And generally, when I see, you know, celebrities around, I don't bother them at all. You know, I don't ask for autographs or anything. You know, I mean, if I'm out, you know, I got my bride and my kids with me, and I'm out, you think I want somebody, you know, coming up to me and asking me for some whatever, pack of gum? But anyway, this show was huge. The Fonz, the character of the Fonz was huge. They had cups with the Fonz. My cousins had, you know, they put milk in it, and they had the Fonz on the outside. And then they had a book, How to Comb Your Hair Like the Fonz, I remember. It had all the steps. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of kids now, they don't even know who the Fonz is. They don't know who Henry Winkler is. It's funny, you'll say to somebody, hey, you know the show Happy Days? And they go, no, never heard of that. And I think to myself, you know, if somebody said to me when I was a kid, hey, do you know Leave It to Beaver, or Father Knows Best, or Marcus Welby, MD? I would say, yeah, I know those shows. But my daughter, my younger daughter, she had a teacher, and, you know, she was young, this is kindergarten. One time we were talking about music, and I mentioned something about the Beatles, and she didn't know who they were. And I go, you don't know who the Beatles are? You know, I mean, I understand if, you know, if I said to her, you know who Afro Man is? And she goes, I never heard of Afro Man. And I said, he's the guy that did that song because I got high. But the Beatles, you know, they're pretty popular, the biggest band ever, you know, over 20 #1 hits. And she didn't know them. And then she goes, what year were they around? I go, they were around up until 1970, 69, 70. And she goes, oh, no, I wasn't born then. I want to tell you, you have to be born. Do you have to be born during a time to know what's going on? I mean, you don't know anything that happened before your birth. You know, you don't know anything about history. So, very surprising, but she did not know the Beatles. I mean, not even that. I bet you if I said any band, you know, Rolling Stones or, you know, Bread, probably would have said, I I don't know who they are. I want to tell a pickup a book about music history and read up on these bands, and you know, that way you're more well-rounded. I mean, imagine, even when I was a kid, I knew about old bands before I was born. It wasn't like I said, oh yeah, I only know about the bands that existed after my birth. So that's how it is. That's how it was. That's how it was. So anyway, today is really nice. Got up this morning, I went outside. The house inside was cool, so I thought outside was cool. And when I stepped outside, it was warm. So, but we went out in the morning, had breakfast. Now, I'm not fussy with the meals. You know, when I go order, I don't really complain, even if it's not like they made a mistake, say, right? I don't really mention it, you know. So today I ordered a breakfast, and it was supposed to have 3 eggs. It was supposed to have bacon, and they forgot the bacon, and they forgot the 3rd egg. They gave me 2. So somebody thought it was a regular breakfast. They gave me 2 eggs and no bacon. And my bride is big on noticing these things, even though it's not her meal. She will investigate. She's like, hey, didn't you order? Weren't you supposed to get bacon with that? And I said, yeah, I was, because you don't want to say no at that point, because then it escalates it. You know, then she has to prove to you that she knows that it was supposed to have bacon. So the waitress comes over, and my bride jumps in, and she's like, I think they forgot the bacon. And I go, yeah, they forgot it. So she brought me double the bacon, normal now, just to compensate, you know, so that, you know, in case I'm one of those fussy people that puts a 0 on the tip, which I never do. Because I realize a lot of times it's not the waitress's fault, it's the guy in the back. Although she should have noticed, right? It should have been like, but she didn't deliver it. They have help that, you know, comes out and brings the stuff, so you can't blame her. So I gave her the normal tip I usually give, $1,000. So she brings me the extra bacon, and then I ate the stuff. Didn't think my bride noticed that there were only 2 eggs, because I try to eat it quick, because I usually was going to make an issue out of it. And then we get in the car, and she's like, weren't you supposed to have 3 eggs, and you only had 2? I want to tell her, how do you know 1 egg wasn't buried underneath the, you know, the hash brown? So, paying attention to my food. No, I do not like that. Another thing I don't like, because I find it unnecessary. It's not that I have an issue with doing it. I just find it unnecessary. Like when you're eating, right? You bought something, and then, you know, your wife or whatever bought something different, and then my wife does it all the time. She'll be like, you know, you want to try some of this, you know, something that I don't have. I'm like, I'm not interested. Eat your food. I'll eat mine. If I wanted what you have, I would have ordered that. I'm not that curious to, you know, look over and go, oh, she's eating, I don't know, beets. I wish I could have a beet. I couldn't care less. I'm eating my, you know, shrimp, my steak, whatever, you know, whatever it may be, and I'm fine with that, you know. But yeah, you always have these people that want to share. If you want a piece of my whatever, I can give you that, but I am not interested in what you're eating at all. Trust me, I don't care, you know. Or it'd be like, you want to try a little bit of my drink? That, once again, I got my own beverage, and I'm not interested in your beverage. Plus, I think it screws up, you know, your taste buds. You drink this, and then all of a sudden you drink it, and it just throws you off. So whatever I get, my portion, that's it. Eat your portion, that's it. I'm not interested in this trading food. You cut a piece of my steak, I give you that. You give me a piece of your calamari, or your I don't know, your salmon. You know, because like I said, if I was interested in getting a salmon or anything, I would have ordered that in the first place. So I want to eat what I got, and if you want a piece of what I got, I can give you that. But I'm not interested in the swapping. You know, it's like these people are like, can I try a little bit of that? Try it next time. You know, remember next time we went over there and I saw the shrimp and it looked good. So So this time I'm going to get the shrimp. But yeah, that gets on my nerves, this swapping of food. Another thing that gets on my nerves, people drinking from each other's cup. You know, I mean, oh, I'm your cousin. Oh, I don't care. You know, I mean, it doesn't happen to me, but when I see, you know, I'm your cousin, I don't know, you know, what's in your mouth. I don't know what mononucleosis thing is hiding in the back of your tonsils. You get the thing, and then it goes in there, and then, you know, you drink from mine, and then now it's in mine, and now I'm going to get the mononucleosis from you. So I'm not interested in that. You know, if you're that cheap, you can't go and buy your own beverage. Buy your own beverage if you're thirsty. You know, this thing with sharing from other people, even if it's a sip. For me, if I am thirsty, I will get my own beverage. I get my own beverage even if I'm not thirsty. I never even, for my own kids, say, yeah, I didn't get a beverage, let me have a sip of your water. I've never done that. You know, everybody's mouth is different. You know, you get these people that have strep throat, but they show no symptoms, and then they're like, yo, let me have a sip of your water. And you're like, have it, just take it. You know, they take it, and then, you know, they get offended too. It's like they came from the land of sanitation. Nothing is in their mouth. Everything is clear. I don't know what's in there. You know, I don't know who you came in contact with the other day, who you shared water with, you know, and all of a sudden you have their stuff in your mouth and now I have to have it. I don't think so. Now I can see, you know, you're in the middle of nowhere, you're thirsty, somebody in the group has water, and it's a matter of, you know, like life and death, you have to have some water. Yes, that's fine, but if you're in a place, you're in a 7-Eleven, buy your own beverage. What are you going to spend, $2? All right, buy your own beverage, drink your own beverage, don't share, you know, because it's like, you know, it's a friend, oh, it's a friend of mine, so what does that mean? It's a friend of yours. But yeah, I'm not, like I said, when I go to a restaurant, I order whatever I get. That's what I want to eat. I don't care what my neighbor got. I don't care what, you know, my kids got. I don't want to share any. You know, eat your food, eat your portion, and everything's fine, you know. Now, if you're curious from me, I can give you a piece. Take it, but I don't want anything from you. I don't want it. I'm not fascinated with that, you know, like you want to try some of my meatballs. No, I don't. I don't want to try anything of yours. And it has nothing to do with, oh, because you gave me something, now I feel obligated to give you something. It's not that at all. It's just that I find it like a big hassle, and I have zero interest in trying out whatever everybody else got. You know? And I've always been that way. I've never cared. You know, like when I went to a restaurant as a kid, I ate my own thing. I never said to my mother, hey, can I try that squid? Or you may have some of your salad. I ate what I got, and that's it. That's it. And I never shared a beverage with my cousin, you know, John or whatever. I was never that broke that I couldn't afford a beverage, and if I ever was that broke I couldn't afford a beverage, I just wouldn't have a beverage. I would go to the bubbler and have it there, take a little, you know, sip from the fountain. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.